Grips are probably the most versatile tool in AutoCAD. We can use them to make quick revisions to our geometry. In fact, we can use grips to accomplish nearly every modification command we've talked about so far. Let's take a look at how they work. I'm going to open a drawing such that we can play around with the grips feature. So I click my open icon. I'm going to come down within the Chapter 9 folder, and I'm going to select the number 8 drawing, the MP3 player. Let me select this and click open. Now on my screen, I've got an MP3 player as well as some scrap geometry. One thing I noticed right off the bat, this drawing opened up in a window. Let's correct that. I'm going to maximize my window so it fills up my interface. Now to the right of my MP3 player, I've got some scrap geometry. We're going to use the scrap geometry to get the idea of how the grips feature works. First off, I'm going to click on this line to select it, and when I do, I can see these little blue squares. These are grips. Grips act like little handles that I can use to modify my geometry. Now the grips feature can actually be turned off. So if you can't see grips on your screen, let me show you where you can go to turn them on. I'm going to hit my escape key to clear the grips. And once again, if you do not see grips, this is where you can go. You can go to your tools pull down, come down to options. We're going to go to our selection tab. Let me click the selection tab. And right down here, there's a checkbox that says enable grips. If you can't see grips, that's where you go to turn them on. So I'm going to click OK to get out of the options dialog. As long as we're talking about settings, make sure that your dynamic input is set for this particular demonstration. The dynamic input or the heads-up display gives us additional functionality with grips. Now I'm going to come up and click this line again. And this time I'm going to move my cursor on top of one of the end grips, and I'm just going to hover. I'm not going to click. Notice the computer gives me the length of the line as well as the angle at which that line was drawn. Let me come down and click this arc, and I'll hover over this end grip. Notice I get the angle of the end of the arc as well as the radius. Let me hover over this middle grip. I can see the radius and I can see the total angle of the arc. I'm going to come down and click my circle. Let me hover over one of these grips. I get the radius of the circle. So I can use the grips feature to query my geometry. I'm going to hit my escape key to clear the grips. Now let's make a geometric change using the grips feature. I'm going to come up and click this line. This time, instead of hovering over the grip, I'm going to click on it. When I click on the grip turns red. Notice that I have some fields pop up on my screen. I can use these to change my line work. Now, if I hit my tab key, I can jump through the various fields. There's actually 4 of them. That first one represented the amount of change that I want to make to my line. This one represents the total length of my line. If I hit tab again, I can see the angle of the line. Hit tab again, I get the amount of change I want to make to my angle. So I'm going to hit my tab key, and we'll tab until we get the total length of the line. I'm going to type in 1 and hit enter. I just made that line 1 unit long. Let's make a change to the arc. I'm going to click the arc. And if I would like to have this fields functionality, I need to click on the triangular grip. Let me click on the triangle. Notice I get the same field. I get one that represents the radius. This guy has a radius of 1.49. Let's make the radius 1.75, and I'll hit enter. I just changed the radius of that arc. Let me come down. We'll click the circle. I'm going to move over this grip and click. I get a field representing my radius. If I hit tab, I get a field representing the amount of change I want to make to my radius. Let me tab until I get to the measurement that represents the full radius, and I'm going to set this to a radius of 1. Let me type in 1 and hit enter. That circle now has a radius of 1. Let me hit my escape key once again to clear the grips. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we can use the grips feature to do nearly